I didn't do it. I mean, if I did it, I would be like a psycho nut job. You would never have been born, because long before that, I would have ended up in the slammer. No, I said I fantasized about it. Hi, this is
Scout
and William from Hyperventilating,
the podcast.
a show that follows life and change through the eyes of a father and a daughter. Join us as we find our way together. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So, what do you got for us, Irish? What do you have for us?
The first topic is Jiu Jitsu for girls.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I think that everyone should be doing Jiu Jitsu, personally. I think that it's a great thing to do. It builds confidence. It builds your self-awareness. It builds lots of things. Like, it's just overall a really good thing to learn, especially if you're a girl.
Yeah, for sure.
Because
it's huge for girls. Huge for girls, I think.
Mainly because it helps make sure that girls aren't nervous walking around alone or anywhere. Just helps make sure that you aren't constantly worried that you'll get harmed, hurt, anything. You just aren't.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make you bulletproof, but it gives you an idea that you can handle
things.
Yeah, that somebody might intrude in your space and that you have some mechanism for doing something about it. Like, you're not just going to panic and freak out like, oh my God, what do I do if somebody gets aggressive with me? You know what it feels like, because you guys train for those situations. Like, you train literally with aggression, you know?
Yeah.
It's real. What you guys do is real. It's not, you don't just do katas or practice punch or practice kick. There's no kicking and punching.
And it's good because in a lot of the other martial arts that you can learn that are also helpful, there's ways that they are helpful too.
Definitely. Confidence.
But Jiu-Jitsu is good because you are actually fighting against someone in the class, because it's also good because you're fighting against people that know Jiu-Jitsu, so it kind of gives you an idea. So it's like, okay, this person knows how to fight, so now I know if I'm against someone that can fight, I know that I can somewhat handle myself.
Yeah, like you guys, you call it rolling, right?
Rolling,
like for people who don't know.
Or sparring.
Or yeah, like but you are using jiu-jitsu, which is it's trying to control the other person physically, right? So you have submissions, you have chokes, and you have arm bars, and you guys tap, right? If it's getting, because you have to, you're like, all right, I'm gonna go to sleep. I tap. You got me there.
Yeah.
And so you guys really find yourself in threatening positions for real. Like, somebody's got themselves either their arm wrapped around your neck, or they have your arm twisted in a weird way, and it's not a practice thing. It's like, okay, I tap, 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 stop, stop, stop.
Yeah. And I know that this isn't our topic for today, but it's also really good for smaller people. A lot of the times the smaller person has the advantage in a roll. Not all the time.
Yeah.
But sometimes, like someone like me who's smaller, skinnier, shorter than a lot of the other people.
Well, and you're in the class with people who are older than you because you've been doing it for so long.
It's good because speed. But like I was saying, it's good for a smaller person because it's a contact sport, so you can kind of find ways to get in gaps or like. Yeah. And also, the smaller person. It's very chess matchy.
Like, it's very intellectual in some ways.
Yeah. And the smaller person also has an advantage because smaller people are usually speedier. Yeah. As in, they have more control over their momentum because there's not much to them body-wise, so they can kind of maneuver their way around.
Yeah.
Whereas a bigger person, there's so much to them, whether they're tall or wider, like there's more to them.
That's actually a really good point. a bigger person is used to imposing themselves physically on the world, right? They just assume everybody will kowtow to them, will back up because of their physical presence. So guys get that idea when they're around women that, oh, well, in general, they're physically bigger. And so I'm in charge here physically because I'm bigger. And that's the beauty of jiu-jitsu, especially for girls, is that like you hear me when I'm trying to sell it to somebody who has a daughter, right? And I'm like, well, it's so good for girls because it takes the low-level scumbag out of play, like that guy, the butt slapper, the guy who's, being aggressive and gross in a bar or on the street.
That doesn't take no for an answer.
Exactly. Yeah. And that guy, he's also a survival machine because they're essentially cowards. And they know that, okay, this girl is not a victim. This is not somebody that I can mess with, because the way you guys comport yourself, the way you walk around, you have this confidence about you that's not like an arrogance. You're not looking for trouble. It's just that you have this understanding of yourself physically, and you're not threatened by the physical presence of another person. And that's because you roll and you have, like, I mean, you go to open mat and you'll have a 210-pound man who's like, jiu-jitsu is a pretty good culture, so it's not, people aren't trying to hurt each other. But on the other hand, you're still physically being engaged with in a combat with a grown man. And so you have confidence that you can, on some level, occupy that same space in a way that is positive for you too, which that's invaluable in life. I mean, it's an amazing thing that it's a gift to be able to do that.
And I know a lot of people will walk into the class and they'll take a class or two and they'll be intimidated.
Yeah,
so
totally.
they won't come back. But the people who have stayed for, like Madish and I, for 7 years, and even the people who have done it for 3 years, 2 years, they know that they made the right decision of staying, even that one extra class where they actually got to roll.
Definitely.
Because you come and you're not going to be fighting the first class. You're going to be learning the basics. You're going to be learning how to disperse energy when you fall, like that stuff.
Yeah.
And so people will sit and they'll watch us roll on the first class and they'll be like, well, I don't want that. I
think, too, it's important to stress, like, for people who don't know, who are thinking about maybe taking it, right, that it's a great environment. Like, it's not a fighting environment. I mean, I'm sure there's some gyms you go to where it's just all about combat and blood and guts, but most of them aren't. Most of it's about sort of self-defense. It's about being able to control the other person and being able to control yourself. Like, you guys have a great culture. The tapping thing is huge, right? Because you're trusting the other person will stop. And they have to trust that you'll stop. They have to trust that you know not to go too far, and you have to trust the same in them, right? So it creates a really good working environment too, where you really learn to work with other people. So there's that element of it too, aside from the confidence and the giving you an actual ability to defend yourself on some level. I mean, it doesn't make you bulletproof, but it just gives you the idea that, the actual real feeling of being able to control yourself.
And most of the people in most gyms, I'd imagine, or all the gyms I've been to, are there for the same reason you're there.
Yeah, that's true too.
Like, they're not there to beat on innocent people that are there because they get bullied.
Those people never last.
They don't.
Because they get smashed.
Yeah.
Like, some guy comes in like that and then he gets thumped by a girl, a 12-year-old or 14-year-old girl, and he's like, he just scurries away. He doesn't come back.
And it's like, most of the people there aren't what you'd imagine. They aren't guys that are there to learn how to fight.
That's another excellent point too.
They're there because... They're there because they're
normal people.
They're there because they want to learn how to fight, but they're there because they want to know how to defend themselves. Yeah. Because they're there, like a girl who maybe has someone who she wants to learn how to defend herself against, or a guy who's there because he has school bullies. he wants to know how to defend himself against. That's why people are there. Most of them. You do get the occasional guy who's there because he just wants to learn how to fight.
Of course. But again, they don't stay. They don't last. Those guys don't last because they don't like they're essentially bullies or cowards anyhow, and they just don't last because they don't like
getting beaten by the guys that they bully.
Or younger than them, or God forbid a girl takes them down and makes them tap. Like, they just don't enjoy it at all.
Well, like I said, they don't like getting beat by the guys that they would bully or pick on.
For sure. No, it's an interesting.
It freaks them out.
It's a good point. You make another good point there about that. It's an interesting. Jiu-Jitsu is a great thing. I have nothing bad to say about Jiu-Jitsu as far as I think every person could benefit from it. It's not your typical martial art. It's not kicking and punching, and its aim is to give you the ability on some level to control yourself and another person physically, which that's a win-win. And for girls, it's a fantastic. Yeah. And any good gym is a good place. Like you, definitely. Some of the nicest people, the best people you know
are Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. All right, Irish, we're pretty much agreed on Jiu-Jitsu for girls. It's awesome.
Yeah.
For anybody, it's awesome, but for girls especially. What do you have lined up for us next?
Cell phones in school. What do we think about that?
Cell phones in school.
Yeah.
I think it's heinous.
I think as someone who has had her phone in school before, that it's probably not the best idea, because A, it's a distraction. B, there's ways to contact your family at school, so that excuse isn't even apparent. So
yeah, I don't even know why it's sanctioned. Like, it's not necessary at all. It's just insane. Can you imagine trying to be a teacher in the classroom with the kids on their phones? Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, in elementary school, we weren't allowed to have our phones. We weren't allowed to have them in our backpacks even. But some kids had notes from their parents saying, like, my child...
Like, what's the argument for letting a kid have their phone in school?
I don't
school,
really
sure,
have
I get that, in their locker, or, if you're afraid they're going to get stolen, put them in a holding pen somewhere. But to have them, like, in the actual classroom?
Oh, that's ridiculous. That's not.
That's what I'm talking about. Like, I don't mean, to me, a kid takes the phone to school. I totally understand that. Has the phone on them from the backpack to the parents to get in touch with them. I am completely, no problem. That's one of the only good things about cell phones to me, is that. That's great. But in the classroom,
having them in the classroom is ridiculous.
It is.
I know kids, well, not last year, but last year and the year before at my old school, they would have, you could have your phone in the classroom. In certain classes, some teachers wouldn't allow it, But
why? Why do you need your phone in the classroom?
I can't find any reason. I don't think
I was reading an article, and I guess one of the discussions in Canada, it wasn't in Canada, it was in the States, because they leave it up to the schools. So federally, they're like, no school, it's dumb having phones in the classroom. All the studies, everything, it's a problem. But then they leave it to the schools. So if you have a school principal who's on board, then there's no phones in the classroom. But if the principal isn't, then there's phones in the classroom.
Yeah.
But to what end? Like, the argument would be, oh, well, you can use them as a study aid, right? Well, isn't that what the teacher's for?
Yeah.
Like, studying's for afterwards. The classroom is for, or notes.
A cheat sheet, like
I just don't, I don't see, the big thing is, well, if there's an emergency, if the parents have to get a hold of you. But I think that, why does it have to be different than it was back in the day where, if your parents they called the office?
Really, it takes longer to message your kid, because the kid might not see it for an hour.
That's true,
and if the kid does see it, then the parent has to contact the school. I'm coming to pick up my kid.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
But if you just contact the school, what are they going to say?
Point.
No, you can't come get your kid. No, they're not going to say that. Just contact the school. Hey, it's an emergency. I need to get my kid. Bam.
Well,
5 minutes.
I mean, what's wrong
done
with that system? You call the front office. Hey, can you tell Bobby that the car won't start?
The only reason kids have phone in their class is to feel cool. Like, I'll be scrolling on TikTok or just whatever, and I'll see a video of someone, like, full-on recording in the classroom.
Yeah, no, it's insane. Like, it's to me, it's just insane. There's no need for phones in a classroom. It's just purely a distraction, and I don't know who could argue that otherwise. Like, there's just no. The argument is the two things to me as a study aid. Well, you're supposed to be in class learning, so that's your studying, and then the other thing is an emergency. Well. The office, the system of where it takes 1 minute to get to the classroom and say, Bobby, you got to come with me.
Yeah, that's...
Like, how is that... How does that justify the distraction? Man, teachers must... Can you imagine? It's hard enough to get respect and to get concentration and focus from students.
I know.
And if phones are allowed in classrooms,
It's...
I just think it's insane. It's just unnecessary and dumb.
Yeah. I think we can agree on that.
All right, so we've wrapped that up then.
Okay, I'm so excited for this. Okay, next is a segment called On the Spot. This is a new one.
I am not as excited as you are.
Okay, so basically I'm going to put my dad on the spot with a story that I want him to tell.
Yeah.
And
I don't know
then he has to tell
what story it is.
So the story I want you to tell is the time that you put
Luckily,
a chainsaw...
I'm in charge of editing.
The chainsaw?
Dude, come on.
And the motel.
No, that story... no.
What? Fine. Okay. I have 3 options because
I didn't do that. I said that I didn't do it. I said I fantasized about doing it. I didn't do it. I mean, if I did it, I would be like a psycho nut job. You would never have been born because long before that, I would have ended up in the slammer. No, I said I fantasized about it. Because, fine.
Never mind then.
No.
I thought you actually put the chainsaw through the door.
Through the door? No.
Never mind.
No. Well, it's still pretty funny though.
Okay. I have 2 other options because I knew that one of them would blow up.
Okay, so are we cutting all this out then?
No. This is quality recording.
People were partying next door to the motel. We were working in the bush, and we were trying to sleep. And it was like 11 or 12, and tried going over there nicely, nothing. And so I told the guy that I was working with, I told him that what I'd like to do is fire up my chainsaw and just go and just drill it through the door. Not hurt anybody, just sort of slide it in through the wooden door so a few inches came in on the other side, and then take it out and then go back to bed, because I figured that would stop the noise. So that was the story. I didn't actually do it. Oh my God, man.
Okay, well, never mind.
My
other option was...
They would have stopped.
Okay, well, how about the jumping building story?
Yeah, all right. So I'm working in the Cayman Islands, and we're building houses, and it was super sketchy.
This was in the Caymans?
Yeah, yeah. It was on Little Cayman, and there was a crew. There was only like 4 or 5 of us on the crew. 3 of us that showed up regularly, and we were building a huge house.
Right.
And the house had a garage with an apartment above it, and they were 2 separate buildings, and they were separated by, I don't know, maybe 3 meters, 4 meters, 10, 12 feet. I'm just guessing, right?
Which is a big gap.
It was a big enough gap, for sure. And this guy worked with Orvando. He was super athletic. And he was older than me, but he was really athletic and just one of those guys. He just was a physical guy, really, really physically adept at everything. And so we're up on the roof. The roof hadn't been finished, and so we're walking around, and we're about 5 meters off the ground. Maybe it was high. Just walking around the edge of the house, and we had to go from the house. We had to do something in the garage. And so we're standing there, and Orvando just leaps over this gap onto the garage, right? And he made it look so easy. He just leapt over and landed on the other edge and grabbed onto a beam, and he spoke like this. So he lands on the other side, and he just kind of looks back at me like, come on. And I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, wow, this is a bad idea. But he made it look so easy. So I leapt. And I missed by so much. Like, I was halfway across, and I realized, like there's no way, man. I'm not even close. And so I landed with my ribs on the edge of the other building. Like, there's no roof, imagine. So it's just the wall, the top of the wall. And I landed, the edge of the top of the wall caught me in the ribs, and I managed to grab on to the edge of the top of the wall to keep myself from plummeting down to the ground.
How far was it to the ground?
It was similar to the house. Like, it was pretty high. It was more than, like, normally you got like an 8-foot from ground to the top, right? But it was more than that because everything was much higher. We built everything super high. The people wanted these high rooms and high ceilings, right? So it was high, man. But it was just, it was the fact that halfway over, I knew I was doomed.
Yeah.
like, and he made it look so easy. And I remember thinking, like, time slows down when you're in a wreck like that. And I remember thinking, like, man, he made it look so easy. And so, yeah. I did something to the cartilage between the ribs. The next morning when I woke up, I lived next door to the guy that we were working for, Robin, and usually I was up ready to go, and he came next door. He's banging on the door. I got out of bed. It was one of those times where you wake up and you don't realize yet, you don't remember, you're just coming back to the world. And I woke up and I went to get out of bed and I couldn't move. And I was like, what's going on?
Do you think you broke it?
No, I think I tore the cartilage in between the ribs. Like, I just cracked her. I don't know. It was bad. And it took me, no kidding, it took me like 2 minutes to get out of bed and get to the door. It was hardly a distance, but it took so long to do it. And Robin's at the door, and I'm like, yeah, man, I don't think I can work today. I remember he's like, well, why not? I'm like, dude, I just can't move. Yeah, it was bad.
Oh my God.
So that's the story you wanted.
Yeah, I really wanted to hear that story.
All right. The leaping across the building to building story
you
was such
really
a bad call.
It.
Yeah, no, that's true. I can't really call it leaping from building to building.
You didn't even really make it.
I made it like 2/3 of the way. I remember hanging there, and I was hanging there, and he had to come back. Armando, he saw this, and he had to come back and grab me and help pull me up, right? Because I was like, I was really, it was painful.
That's so bad.
Yeah. No, I made it. Yeah, I'm calling 2/3 of the way. It was a win, man. There's people who wouldn't have made it halfway. All right. There you go.
Okay. So next, for our last segment of the episode, we're going to do something called Hear Me Out. If you don't know what Hear Me Out is, it's basically one of us just has a list of a few things that we find satisfying or interesting or attractive that the other person might not. So let's jump right into it.
All I hear is that I'm allowed to rant.
Yeah.
All right.
So the first on the list, I know you're not going to like this one, but you know when you have a leak in the roof and the bubble of water is sitting in the paint?
Uh-huh.
That is so satisfying to me. Like, I just want to go up and pop it with a needle. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. You know what I hear? I hear a person who sees that and knows that they're not responsible for cleanup.
Exactly. And then my other thing is the beaver.
What is it satisfying about it?
Just the way it forms, into the little bubble. Like, I don't know, it just looks like you could go up and jiggle it. It just looks really nice.
So you just like the poppability of it?
Yeah.
It's aesthetically pleasing to you to see a water bubble form on the ceiling?
Yes.
All right.
My next thing is the platypus duck-looking thing in Phineas and Ferb.
Oh, the cartoon.
Yep.
Well, what about it? That's not a hear me out. That's just naming a weird cartoon creature.
He's interesting to me.
Why?
Because he's weird and funny.
What is it? This
is I haven't seen Phineas and Ferb in like 6 years.
This is like a radio show here. We're just speaking. You got to describe him.
He's like turquoise, and then his beak, which is long and rounded at the like tip of the beak or whatever, and it's brown and looks like a waffle cone. He's just aesthetically pleasing to me, like the way he's drawn. I don't know, he's just...
What's his name?
Oh, I couldn't tell you that. I haven't seen Phineas and Ferb in like 6 years.
Wow. I'm not sure I understand how Hear Me Out works.
And then for my last thing is a made bed, but with just flat sheets.
Oh, I see. So you're just listing things that you just find visually appealing.
Yeah, or like
right now.
Or someone that attractive that wouldn't be to someone else.
Oh.
And for my third thing is like a bed that's made flatly, like no creases, nothing, just flatly, and then perfectly crunches down to the bottom of a bed. Yeah.
So a military bed. Like how
Yes.
army guys, you know, you have ever seen that in a movie or anything? The army guys, they get in trouble, like the dude comes in, the sergeant, the nasty, angry guy comes in and bounces quarters off the bed, like...
Oh, I have seen that.
Yeah, like the guys have to make their beds with precision, and there's like this many fingers from the bottom as where the sheet turns and stuff.
Like that. That's so appealing to me, the way a bed is made and put together.
You're gonna join the military then, are you?
No, thank you. Rain check.
No, I mean then you.
How about you give us a hear me out?
Get to fulfill that. Well, I'm unprepared for a hear me out.
I was unprepared.
What is it I'm looking for? Like
something that you find in like attractive
weirdly
or
appealing that other
yeah.
people maybe don't find appealing.
Like for example, the way crusty paint looks on a canvas.
Yeah, that's cool though. I like that. It's something that I find would.
Or like the smell of a microphone head. That was me sniffing it.
Yeah, nice. I can't think of anything offhand that's like that might not. It might be something that other people don't find appealing. I like squishing through snow, but that's I would think
everyone finds that appealing.
The best is when it's when I'd be in a fresh fall, like way out in the woods somewhere. Yeah. And it's all fresh, and I would look back and I'd see my tracks, and every time without fail I imagined that like nobody else had ever done that, walked there or ever would, right? Because in that moment it's true, like those tracks are mine and they'll never be anybody else's, and the snow will melt and they'll be gone, right? So that's something that I always found super appealing. Like I was fascinated to look back and see the tracks, just my tracks, like. That's why I liked working alone in the woods.
Yeah, playing in the snow's a hoot.
A hoot. It sure is a hoot.
Yes, ma'am.
Where would you even hear? Where would that come up?
Mimi.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because that's very much not of your generation.
No.
A hoot. It's a hoot.
But I like it when she says it, so.
It's funny. It just sounds good. All right, so I think we've come to the end of today's adventure.
Yep.
Verbal adventure. We cover everything you want to cover?
Yeah.
Yeah? Are you still working on being a comedy genius? Episode to episode?
Are you?
No.
Yes, his comedic work needs a bit of work.
Yeah, it's... What are you whispering?
I'm whispering into the microphone.
Did you say anything interesting?
No.
All right, Irish. So what did we do today? We talked about
Jiu Jitsu for girls.
Yeah.
Having your cell phone at school. Then for our segments, we did on the spot. Then we did hear me out, which went so-so.
Yeah, we'll have to work on that one. It's got potential though.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
Me too.
But definitely we need to work on that one.
Yeah.
So I had fun again. Thank you very much. I love you very much.
I love you too.
And we'll prepare for the next episode.
Yes, we will.
All right then.
All right then.
Until then.
Mm-hmm.
What did you want to say? You wanted to say some weird way. Thank you very much for this episode. That's what you were going on about.
No, I wasn't.
Yes, you were.
No, I wasn't.
Yeah, you were like this. And that's today's episode. It just,
No.
Well, how were you doing it?
Thank you very much for this episode.
That's okay. That's way different.
Yeah, it is.
All right,
You sound weird when you do it. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, do the outro. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this episode.
Okay, you're very welcome. Yeah, you're very welcome. Boy, you looking at me like
Not
I'm
funny
the
when
weird
you do
one.
it.
Oh, it's not funny when I do it. Well, I love you. Next time.
I love you too. Next time.